Hey guys, hopping right into it. It's Taven here, or Vil, and I wanted to get into some of the lore of Final Fantasy XVI that we know so far. So basically, Final Fantasy XVI takes place in the world of Valisthea, and it is a very diverse region. There are six kingdoms, so to speak, six different domains. And so there is a lot to unpack here. As with any Final Fantasy, there is a ton of backstory, a ton of lore to dig into. And for lore aficionados, this is going to be one of the most immersive games in the Final Fantasy series. So I think a video is in order for going through some of this lore, going through some of the things that have been updated on the Final Fantasy XVI website, some of the stuff you may have missed, and some of the things you may not have seen yet. We're going to start off with this, which was one of the main things on the main page, is the Eikons, which are like the Eidolons or the Aeons, basically the summons. But they are deities in this world, similar to the ones from 15, in that they grant power to the people of the kingdom that has the stone that summons them, so to speak. So they are the most powerful and deadly creatures in Valisthea. Each resides within a dominant, who is a man or woman who is blessed with the ability to call upon their dread power. It's somewhat of a individual god for each kingdom. And there are a few that we've been introduced to so far, such as Titan, Garuda, Shiva, most likely. We're not 100% sure if she will be an Eikon in this game, as well as Phoenix. And I believe those are the four that have been introduced so far. Ifrit also seems like he's going to play a part in this, but who is to say, because Phoenix seems to be the fire-based one, so we don't 100% know. It's actually kind of interesting. In some of the kingdoms, the dominants, the people who are imbued with the power of the deity, are seen as royalty, are seen as basically the king of the kingdom. And in these other places, they're seen as something to be feared, something to be hidden away, somebody that shouldn't be out in public with other people because they represent something that they're afraid of, that they don't understand. Now, along with the Eidolons, we also have six kingdoms, and these are very, very different places with their own armies, their own deities, their own belief system, their own everything. So digging into it, we have Rosaria, which actually sounds very similar to the region from Final Fantasy XII and Ivalice, but Rosaria is in the west of Valisthea, and it actually is where our main character, Clive, is from. And Rosaria is actually one of the regions, like we talked about, where the dominant is seen as a powerful figure, as the king of the kingdom, so to speak. In this case, the Archduke. And they fall under the domain of the Eikon Phoenix, who represents the element fire. And each of the Eikons comes with their own element, so to speak. Now, along with that is the Holy Empire of Sanbreque? I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce that. Is the largest theocratic force in Valisthea. Now, I believe theocratic means ruled by religion. And so they might be the most in tune with their Eikon roots. They might be the most in tune with the laws and customs of the deities. And along with that comes being a very holy empire. And so they might fight tooth and nail for their Eikons, unlike somebody like Wallowood or one of the other three that we'll be reaching on the next screenshot. In this case, the Holy Emperor is actually the living incarnation of the deity. That's what they see their emperor as. The dominant actually serves as the champion, or the general, of their armies, who takes to the field in times of war. Now you'll notice that the dominant of blank is down here in the paragraph. That is actually because I don't believe they have revealed the Eikon of Sanbreque yet. Might have been in one of the trailers. I don't think it's Titan, because I think Titan's on one of the next ones, but Garuda is actually the one for the Kingdom of Wallowood, which we will get to next. And they are the entire eastern half of Valisthea. I'm probably going to mess up all these pronunciations, I'm not going to lie. I'm doing my best with them, but some of them could be phonetic, some of them might not be, and I guess we'll see goes through when the game comes out, because I'm not sure if they've been said in trailers or if I wasn't paying attention to parts. The kingdom actually has been under attack multiple times by orcs and beastmen, but the current ruler of the realm is the dominant of, I thought it was Garuda. I could have swore it was Garuda, but now they're making it out to be a guy, and I swear the dominant is a woman. So I guess we'll see closer when the game comes out, but that's a very odd discrepancy. Coming up next, we actually have the Dalmekian Republic. It's a little bit covered up on my webcam, unfortunately. It is made up of 5 states from which the members of its ruling parliament are drawn, so it's got a little bit more of a oligarchy from the sounds of it, unless it's more of like a passed down in the family thing, but still. It actually is partially a mountain region and takes over a large part of the southern part of Valsthea. Now, the dominant of Titan, who is the Acon of Earth and is the Acon of this region, is actually a special advisor to Parliament and has a significant say in its decision-making. I'm assuming he also takes to the field in times of war against one of the other kingdoms. Which brings us into the only one I think that actually lists itself as a kingdom, is the Iron Kingdom, which is a small group of islands off the coast of Storm at the western half of Valsthea's 2 realms. And if you can see in the background the map, there are 2 realms, and there are a series of islands over under the Dalmekian Republic. Now, with that, they actually are part of the Crystalline Orthodox, which worships the crystals, and they actually control Drake's Breath, a mother crystal that sits at the heart of one of their islands, which actually is a source of contention with Rosaria, the initial kingdom that we talked about, the home of Clive. They actually are pretty far away from anybody else. They speak their own language. It seems like they have all of their own systems. There's no real trade between them. They're more than likely a little bit behind in terms of everything except war from the sounds of it. And along with that, they actually judge dominance to be unholy abominations, similar to the Pulsal Sea from Final Fantasy XIII, if you're familiar with that. They seem to be judged as below them and as almost like beasts or like something that needs to be casted out. So I'm not sure. It seems like they're going to possibly stop an execution of a dominant at some point in the game. I think that'd be a really cool scene, personally. But they do execute their dominant. Which makes me wonder what their Acon is and how their Acon feels about it. Could be a source of contention in the game. The final kingdom is actually the Crystalline Dominion, and they sit at the heart of Valsthea. It looks like actually that region right under the Iron Kingdom. You'll notice I'll circle with my mouse, but the blue. It looks like it's that. And it looks also to be the bridge between these 2 regions. Storm on the left, and I'm not sure what the right one is actually. They sit at the heart of Valsthea, built around the tallest of all the mother crystals, the Drake's Tail. And actually, I haven't pointed it out, but some are all of the crystals that give the regions power and their Acons actually have names related to a Drake, which may be like some kind of mother dragon, perhaps. Some kind of mother deity would be my assumption. The Drake's Tail is the tallest of the mother crystals. The Iron Kingdom is Drake's Breath. Dalmekian is Drake's Fang. The other 3 have their own designations. I don't think that'll be super important. I think those will just be landmarks in the game. Could be wrong. If I am, call me out on it. Now, many bloody battles were fought for control of the small plot of land that the Crystalline Dominion is in, till the realms finally agreed to an armistice. As part of the peace treaty, the islands became an autonomous dominion, led by a council of representatives from the surrounding nations. Each realm enjoying equal claim to the Mother Crystal's blessing. So, the Dominion has its own people, but they are ruled over by one member from all of the surrounding nations. I don't know if that's going to include the Iron Kingdom, but we'll see. Again, there is no dominant there. However, there's probably an Acon there. We will see how that turns out. Onto the characters, we do have Clive and Joshua Rosfield. We'll get a little bit more in depth with them in a second. But together, everyone expected Clive, the dark-haired one, to actually inherit the Phoenix's power and become its dominant. But instead, his younger brother Joshua actually was the one who was chosen to become the dominant. And Clive is actually older than Joshua by 5 years. He looks to be about 17, 18, and Joshua looks to be about 12 or 13. He's actually frail and bookish. He is one of the people that always is sitting inside. He's more of a knowledge kind of guy, and it seems like Clive is a lot more of the hands-on, maybe an aggressive one. And actually, his character arc might include possibly a time skip similar to 15, in that the brutality of war might change him, and he might become less headstrong and aggressive, and might actually become a bit more stronger and restricted, perhaps. He might become a little bit more reserved after losing people in battle. It could be a myriad of different ways he advances. By the end, he could be the bad guy. We haven't seen something like that, really. So I think that would be an amazing twist, but I really don't see it coming. Then again, it's a twist. You're not meant to see it coming. I will say I have not fully read through these, so some of this information may catch me by surprise. The first of the main characters is actually going to be our protagonist, Clive ROSFIELD. ROSFIELD? I don't know. I'm going to say ROSFIELD because it sounds cooler. Firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria, though all expected him to inherit the Phoenix's flames and awaken as its dominance, destiny instead chose his younger brother Joshua to bear this burden. In search of a role of his own, Clive dedicated himself to mastering the blade. His practice pays off when, at just 15 years of age, he wins the Ducal tournament and is dubbed the first Shield of Rosaria, tasked to guard the Phoenix and blessed with the ability to wield a part of its fire. Alas, Clive's promising career is to end in tragedy at the hands of a mysterious dark Akon Ifrit, setting him on a dangerous road to revenge. So, looks like we're looking at a bit more of a revenge road trip almost. I can see this going a lot of ways, but part of it I think is going to be a system similar to Final Fantasy XIII, actually, where you're going to be controlling Clive, and the other characters are going to be going off of their own preset commands. Similar to what Final Fantasy XV did, similar to what Kingdom Hearts does, where you can set up the AI for your companions. I think games even like Dragon Age do things like that. So we actually could see a lot of variety in battles and a lot of variety in combat through this. Super interesting. We now move on to our second main character. I'm not sure exactly how much he's going to be on the back burner, how much he'll be around us, but this is Joshua ROSFIELD. He's actually the second son and the younger brother of Clive. And despite his noble upbringing, Joshua treats all his father's subjects with warmth and affection, none more so than Clive, whom he deeply admires. Joshua quails at the sight of a carrot on his dinner plate. Carrots become the least of his concern when he is swept up into the tragic events that change Clive's life forever. Now, it seems Joshua will also be affected by whatever Ifrit gets up to early on in the game, from the sounds of it, that causes Clive to be on the path of revenge. It seems like Clive is going to be hunting for a way to kill a god, essentially, and Joshua is going to be possibly like the man in the chair, you know, like the guy in the chair, like Ned from Spider-Man, who commonly calls himself the man in the chair. We could see something like that with Joshua being the more bookish one. Maybe he's done a little bit more research. Maybe he knows something that could fell a god. And I don't think he's going to be on the front line. I mean, just look at him. He's holding what looks like a dog, but is as small as a cat, shaped like a bunny. That's terrifying, actually, now that I think about it. He just might be on the field, on the front lines, swinging a sword. We now move on to Jill Warrick, who is a bit more of a character I haven't seen much of. She actually is with Clive and Joshua from a very young age, because the Archduke insisted that Jill be raised alongside his sons, and now at 12 years of age, she is as much a part of the ROSFIELD household as Clive and Joshua. Ever kind, gracious, and unassuming, Jill has become a trusted confidant. Now, I think she is going to play the role similar to Ignis or Prompto of Final Fantasy XV, where instead of being like, just their I don't know, maid or friend or just younger sister, I think she's more going to play the role of somebody on the field, like a guardian. She's probably going to be also well-versed with weaponry. Could be somebody that we're meant to get connected to just for them to be ripped away from us. We'll see how it turns out, but this is Jill Warrick. Moving on, we have Hugo Kupka. Now, this man is absolutely terrifying. Definitely getting a lot of villain vibes from him. I think he is going to be one of, if not the most prominent villains in the game. He could very well be an ally, but just based on the reading of this, I'm thinking villain. Permanent Economic Advisor Hugo Kupka's meteoric rise to prominence was sudden, if not unexpected. Once a nameless foot soldier in the Republican army, his awakening as dominant of the Acon Titan thrust him to the forefront of Dhalmekian politics. It was here he used his newfound position as the most powerful man in the Republic to exert influence over both the nation's armies and its policymaking, amassing a personal fortune in the process. Yet while it is said that a man who has everything wants for nothing, Benedicta Harman, who we'll get to in a minute, will teach him money and power are far from all the world has to offer. Now, it seems like he is going to be reaching for the title of godhood, and I think he will be the second act villain, struck down in his prime, right before he ascends to godhood. I think Benedicta is actually going to strike him down. Perhaps even Clive will, and that'll inadvertently lead to Benedicta becoming the dominant of Titan and becoming all-powerful. That seems to be something that is a twist that occurs a lot in Final Fantasy games and JRPGs in general. Is typically that what looks like the main villain is not actually the main. So maybe we'll see that out of Hugo. Maybe he'll be an ally. Maybe he'll go the Judge Gabranth route, where he ends up being our ally in the end. Some of the development team from Final Fantasy XII actually are working on this game, so we could see something like that in the story, but we'll have to see. Moving on to the aforementioned Benedicta Harman, who is the dominant of the Acon Garuda. She has her own backstory. She has some amazing artwork here, and there is definitely going to be a lot of people who pick her as a favorite character. Now, I was right in saying I believe that she was the dominant for the Acon of Wallowed. Now, having emerged from the storm of youth, cold-hearted and ruthless, Benedicta Harman, the dominant of the Acon Garuda, Warden of the Wind, turned her talent for swordplay and subterfuge into a command of Wallowed's intelligencers. It is on a mission to find the elusive second Acon of Fire, Phoenix, that she crosses paths with a like-minded Clive and is forced to face her past. Is Phoenix the Acon of Fire? I might be wrong about that, actually. Maybe they're both looking for a Freet. What is Phoenix the Acon of, then? Hold up. Okay, so I did a little bit of research. I believe that Phoenix is actually the Acon of Fire, but Ifrit is trying to become the main Acon of Fire, because I think maybe there are Acons that are cast down as the main Acon of a particular element. Either that or they coexist. Similar to what we saw of the Espers in Final Fantasy XII, where there are actually good ones and bad ones, and we don't really see a whole lot of the good ones in Final Fantasy XII. We only see the bad ones, which we actually befriend. So perhaps Ifrit is a good guy in some way. We'll see. But there we have it for Benedicta. The final part of the lore that I want to take a hit at tonight is actually crystals, which I've touched on a little bit before, but there are 6 distinct crystals within the Final Fantasy XVI universe. And these crystals all create the area in which a kingdom lies in. So each kingdom is based around a crystal that gives the people power in different ways through their element or through their Acon, and through their dominant, and basically through the deity that the crystal represents. Now, great powers have grown up around each mother crystal. These 6 crystals are known as the mother crystals, and an uneasy peace has long reigned between them, yet now the peace falters as the spread of the blight threatens to destroy their dominions. Now, what I can gather from this is that dark Acons such as Ifrit, maybe even Bahamut, are going and trying to destroy these mother crystals, which would actually lead to the people falling into disarray, perhaps to organize themselves into one big kingdom to worship Ifrit. Maybe that's what Ifrit is looking for. Maybe he doesn't care about humans at all. Maybe he just wants to destroy them all. That's been something pretty common in some of the Final Fantasy games, and it could be a trope that we're seeing retreaded with a different layer of paint on it. Along with that, the blight could be Acon created. It could also be man-made. Maybe one of the kingdoms has a little bit more technology. Maybe they develop some kind of blight that is destroying the crystals from the inside and forcing the dominants and Acons to be separated from themselves. Perhaps people need to embrace the Acons more, such as the 2 kingdoms that don't exactly have a dominant or an Acon to correspond with. Maybe they need to welcome in a 7th kingdom even that has come up with the blight somehow through the power of the dark Acons. We'll have to see when the game comes out in summer 2023. If you enjoyed this lore dive, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, check out the channel, and I will catch you guys in the next one.